Okay, today I'm going to show you how to wrap your figurative wire sculpture with plaster bandages for the next step in our construction. We have our wire armature underneath. We have it wrapped with newspaper and tape, okay? Before you start with the plaster, one thing to remember is any shape that you see right now is gonna be the shape that it is when you cover it with plaster. So the plaster isn't gonna change a whole lot unless you build up on it. So I'm noticing just a little bit of a shape here that I wanna fix on the head. Okay, make sure that you have um, arms and hands, okay, legs with feet on them. So a lot of times students will kind of forget about the end points. Okay, so I have given everybody one of these wrapped up pieces of, looks kind of like a burrito. It's wrapped up in newsprint. Here's your plaster bandage. Okay, there's a whole bunch in here. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take your scissors and you're gonna cut strips. So you can cut strips that are about 1 inch. Okay, and this is the prep work. You have to get strips cut before you start to work with them. So I would recommend 3 sheets of plaster be cut into 1 inch strips. Okay, I'm going this way because they're a little bit shorter and they're going to be easier to wrap. Okay, so I'm going to get a whole bunch of these pre-cut, and I have water here. Okay, notice the green towel. Please put something down on the table. It's going to get wet, it's going to get messy. I also have an apron on. Okay, so you can see kind of this pattern of dots or open areas within this bandage. This is plaster. So when I dip it, it's gonna get wet and I'm gonna be able to kind of smooth it out. Right now this is very dusty, okay? So we're just gonna dip it through and then we're gonna wrap it. So I'm wrapping it around, kind of in a diagonal. So I overlap it a little bit, but I'm continually going around the figure and I'm taking up space. I don't want to keep wrapping it around the same place because it needs to dry. And if you wrap a whole bunch, it's not going to dry. It's going to be too thick. So now before I do anything else, dip your fingers into the water and just kind of run your finger over this. And what it does is it smooths out the plaster and it gets rid of these little holes, so you have a consistent surface. Okay, so you dip and wrap and then smooth. All right, so now the goal is to cover the whole piece and let it dry. And you're probably gonna do 2 to 3 coats over the entire thing before you're done. Okay, so notice that really it's a covering. It's not gonna add a ton of bulk or mass. It's just kind of one of the finishing steps to your sculpture. Okay, so we're gonna do this over the whole thing. What you see here is exactly what it's gonna look like when it dries. So if there's little pieces hanging off or some areas that aren't smoothed down and they're sticking out, just go ahead and take a minute and go over this again with your finger to smooth it down. Okay, I need to do the top yet. But I'm gonna dip, wrap, and smooth.